Welcome to the show that gives you a wrap of the top stories and interviews on ENCA over the past 7 days. I'm Abigail Visagie and this is Week in One. Let's take a look at your top stories. 6 Boksburg cops arrested for assault and copper theft. Joburg gets a new mayor. The ANC says it's committed to declaring a state of disaster over the country's worsening electricity crisis. Self-confessed killer Flavio Tlabangwane is found guilty of premeditated murder. And one of the top stories that our news teams broke this week is the arrest of 6 cops from Boksburg North Police Station. Police watchdog IPID has been investigating allegations of assault and copper theft. 4 of the officers are accused of beating a man into a coma, while 2 face copper theft charges. Senior reporter Slindelo Masekane has been covering the story.
It's at this police station where 6 officers are accused of unleashing a reign of terror and abusing their power. In January, 4 police officers are alleged to have demanded to see documentation from a Nigerian national. When he couldn't produce it, they dragged him to the police station where he was beaten and tortured. The victim spent 9 days in a coma. In another incident, 2 police officers from the same police station can be seen on camera loading their police van with copper cables. They're accused of stealing the copper from a man who had bought it from a scrapyard. IPID officials, backed up by the police's TRT unit, rounded up the accused cops and cuffed them.
We get tip-offs from the public, but also whenever a case is opened with IPID, the police have to approach us and report that case, and we have to take over from them. Because in terms of our mandate, we have to investigate certain transgressions, and so we were made aware of the incidents, and hence we had to come in and investigate.
The Nigerian consulate says the law must take its course.
We're happy to see this happen. We're happy to see that Nigerians are not assaulted and go scot-free. We're happy to see justice being prevailed.
The police officers will be making their first appearance in court on Thursday while investigations continue. Slindelo Masekane, Boksburg in Ekurhuleni.
As part of our big focus this week, we looked at whether a stable coalition government is possible in South Africa, especially in light of the latest developments in the city of Johannesburg. The Al Jamaah Party's Tapelo Ahmad has been sworn in as mayor, replacing the DA's Mpho Palatse. But he has a tough task ahead ensuring the city is fully functional again. Our reporter Pulele Treaty Jones has the details.
Who is the new Joburg mayor? Those are some of the questions from Joburg residents. They say their patience is running out due to poor service delivery in the city. Tapelo Ahmad from Al Jamaah Party, whose identity hasn't resonated much with residents of the metro, has to work hard to earn the trust of residents. And while the political shifting continues, residents say all they want is service delivery. Long grass not being cut, waste not being collected, traffic lights not working, the worsening energy crisis. These are just some of the issues residents hope the new mayor can focus more on and less on the political jostling.
I don't know who to vote for anymore because every party, there's something wrong with it.
We can put anybody in place as long as they're not doing what we need. Still, it's going to be the same.
I hope there will be change. Yeah, I hope change will be. I didn't even know there was a new mayor in town. Oh my God, I hope he brings change.
The mayor says there's still a need to fix the city's financial status in order to render services to the city.
Working together with these coalition partners of this government of local unity, we will urgently revisit and ensure the approval of the DBSA loan closely linked to the stabilization of the city's finances. It's the improvement of our credit rating, which is critical for investor confidence.
One political analyst believes the politics at play are affecting the stability of governance in the country's biggest metro.
The key issue is really the opportunity for political parties is to rethink the political system now and probably come up with a very stable and predictable ways of ensuring that whichever coalition that is elected stays in power and continues to deliver based on the interests of the citizen.
The mayor does admit that the city's woes won't be fixed overnight, but is committed to responding to the issues. Pule Lichwiti Jones in Johannesburg.
Flavio Tlabangwane has been found guilty of premeditated murder. This after he pleaded guilty to planning to kill his cousin, who was also his lover, Tsepang Pitse, and mutilating her body. Pitse's body parts were found in Tlabangwane's fridge in November 2021 in Protea North, Soweto, days after she went missing. ENCA's Mangoba Mqunu reports.
It's a gruesome discovery that left Soweto residents shocked and looking for answers. On the 13th of November in 2021, community members rushed to this murder scene after a woman's legs and arms were found in a fridge belonging to Flavio Tlabangwane. 2 years on, the confessed killer is now facing justice.
It is clear that the accused has admitted each and every single element of the crime of murder, read together with the provisions of Section 51(1) of the Criminal Law Amendment Act 105 of 1997. The accused has admitted all the necessary elements of the crime of defeating or obstructing the course of justice, as well as the accused has admitted all the necessary elements to sustain a conviction on count number 3, violating a corpse. Accordingly, in the circumstances, I find the accused guilty as follows.
Last week, Tlabangwane pleaded guilty to planning and killing his cousin and lover, Tsepang Pitse, because he suspected her of cheating. But the state took issue with Tlabangwane's version of events.
Why would the accused plan for 2 months to murder the deceased? And then suddenly he wants to now study with her. And he's now suddenly going to move into a house in Randburg, and she's going to live in that house. Although I submit that this was all lies by the accused to lure her to that house, where on the same day he also killed her.
It also interrogated why Tlabangwane kept Pitse's body parts in his fridge, knowing that he had killed her.
He had more than a month to get rid of those arms and those legs, and he decides he's keeping those arms and those legs in that freezer. And what's shocking, and I think this is what is shocking about this case, he then has women coming to the house, spending the nights there. He actually spends time with different women in that specific house, knowing that the deceased body parts are sitting in his freezer. I mean, that does not sound to me, my lord, with respect, like someone who wanted to get rid of the arms and the legs.
A day of reckoning for Tlabangwane, who broke down in court for the first time.
Obviously, there is that sense of justice that is, granted to the deceased and the family. However, the question still remains, where is the rest of the torso, and will the family ever find closure? That answer is obviously a big no.
Sentencing arguments will resume next week, Friday, the 10th of February. Mangoba Mqunu, Katlehong.
Stay tuned to Week in One. Coming up, we take a look at some of the big interviews done by our anchors this week. Welcome back to Week in One. I'm Abigail Visagie. Higher Education Minister Blade Nzimande admits he's concerned about security at tertiary institutions. This comes after the University of Fort Hare's Vice-Chancellor, Sakele Buhlungu, called for better protection. Buhlungu says there has been numerous attempts on his life and those of other staff members at the institution. Professor J.J. Tabane spoke to him on Power to Truth.
I'm very concerned about what is going on in Fort Hare. Your introductory remarks were absolutely spot on. Fort Hare is not an isolated case. That is why, by the way, I hope at some stage you will give us a platform. 3 years ago, I instituted an investigation into the state of security in our universities. That report, by yesterday, I was briefed it's done, which is actually going to be one...
It took 3 years.
Yes.
Must be a terrible situation.
Well, partly also it was disturbed by COVID-19.
Yeah.
That was partly the reason why. So we couldn't participate. But the report is there now. It's actually going to be discussed. Yeah. My own focus is to assist all our universities and our TVET colleges, by the way, to actually help assist them that we stabilize situations, we don't have this kind of criminality.
One of the other burning issues that higher education faces in the country is that of bogus institutions. ENCA's Tumelo Mototwane spoke to Matodzi Makananisa from Fame Academy about this earlier this week.
Listen, you're about to help a lot of students because we know this is the peak time where registrations are occurring, whether it's colleges, TVET colleges, whether it's universities. But the problem is they can equally run a risk of running into an illegal college. How do I identify an illegal college?
All right. Look, the first thing to look out for, I see there is a lot of online applications. It's okay, there's nothing wrong with that. But when it comes to making your payment, that's where you must first make sure that you visit the said college. Find out where they are, if the address exists. If it does exist, go there in person. The other thing that you should look out for is accreditation. You must ask for accreditation. Normally what we do in our institution as well, at the reception, the moment you walk in, we head you over to the reception. We have a space there where our accreditations are hanging on the wall. That is where you start. And you must take that accreditation number. Go and check with the Department of Higher Education or the CETAs that operate under the Department of Higher Education.
The organization Women and Men Against Child Abuse says it's appalled that alleged kingpin of a child sex ring tried to escape justice. Gerard Ackerman has been rearrested after contravening his bail conditions and going missing last week. The organization believes that this is a clear admission of guilt and is concerned that Ackerman was given bail in the first place. Anchor Heidi Jokos interviewed the head of advocacy at Women and Men Against Child Abuse, Luc Lamprecht.
I think the first question is how Ackerman was granted bail in the first place, given the serious charges and counts that he is facing.
It goes back to a previous case. So Mr. Ackerman has a long criminal history, and he was arrested for a sexual crime against two small boys in the Sandton area and appeared in the Alexandra Magistrates Court, and he was granted bail in that case, which was, despite the fact that he had a whole range of other cases that had been pending or had been finalized previously. And then while out on bail, he then was arrested for the current High Court case, which is the one that involved Advocate Kennedy. Now, we cannot come up with any other explanation why he got bail in the case involving Advocate Kennedy, other than there was some kind of influence by the powerful Advocate Kennedy to get him bail, because he was already out on bail. Some of these are Schedule 6 offences for which you should prove that there's exceptional circumstances to get bail. None of it was considered. He got bail. He then ended up in court standing trial alone. And in the running from the law now, it was after the sentences that he could be facing were put to him.
Yes, but I think, again, the National Prosecuting Authority should have considered that he could possibly be a flight risk because he failed to appear the last time, citing ill health, yet he was spotted today, thank goodness to the public. Surely the MPA should have considered this, the accused as a flight risk.
We actually spoke to the National Prosecuting Authority previously in terms of the case in the Alexandra case, because the National Prosecution Authority consolidated the outstanding case. In other words, there were other cases that were pending against Mr. Ackerman, which they added to the High Court case, but they couldn't add the Alexandra case because it was a part-heard case. In other words, it had started already. So we said to them, surely this person can't have bail. He's been committing offences while he's been on bail. And in one of the bail applications when we were there, one of the bail hearings when he was asked to come back, he actually asked for his computers back because he needs to earn a living. And the computers is the majority of what he was using to commit the sexual crimes against children.
Transnet is inviting parties to revive its container corridor between Johannesburg and Durban. The operating lease will run for 20 years and require investment, rehabilitation, upgrade and maintenance of the rail network. ENCA anchor Gareth Edwards spoke to the CEO of the African Railroad Industry Association, Masele Nhlapo.
if I was looking at the issues that Transnet has and this corridor has, I wouldn't be so willing to give up my money because A, I don't know where it's going, and B, this sounds like a bottomless pit of cash. Good morning. Am I being unfair?
You know, that's English. Good morning to the viewers. As an organization that represents 4 major private operators in the country, and including manufacturers, the current request for qualification it's a bit worrying if you look into it. It talks about concessioning the infrastructure and the operation to another company or consortium. Now, that is totally not in line with our Bible. This took 14 years to be finalized and be approved by Parliament. And thanks to Minister Mbalula that he expedited this. So when you find an organization that is not a private company, it's a state-owned entity that works against government policy, you have to ask yourself lots of questions.
What's the main question for you? What would you be asking yourself?
Was maintenance not done on purpose to get the infrastructure where it is, so that we can get a concession that suits certain people? But what we are worried about is that, do we have 2 governments? Do we have a government of President Cyril Ramaphosa and the government of Transnet that do what is separate from what is agreed here? The president talked about third-party access on the 15th of October 2020, and the State of the Nation address, he talked about third-party access will start on the 1st of April. Still, we don't have that. Now, here's the SONA coming up again. Say I'm an investor. What confidence would I have in what the president has to say? And what the reaction of Transnet.
And the reality of what they're doing.
Yes, there's the president, number one, the chief commander, saying that this will happen. And on the other hand, if we have a second government, they're doing something else. I promise you, in many countries, the land always belongs to government. If you're going to remove that, it's strictly privatizing that line. And third-party access is not privatizing. So I'm afraid that somewhere, somehow, things may have gone rogue.
Stay tuned to Week in One. Coming up, tourists shot at by poachers during a wildlife tour at Lake Jozini in KZN. Welcome back to Week in One. I'm Abigail Visagie. Community members and businesses in Jozini fear that poaching might put an end to the local tourism economy. This was after an incident sent shockwaves in an already intimidated community. Many now fear they might lose their jobs if such rampant crime is allowed to continue. ENCA's Ngobile Madlala reports.
These people with guns. Flat.
Lake Jozini offers tranquility and calm waters far from the hustle and bustle of the city. It employs hundreds of local residents in fields including security, housekeeping, hospitality, boat driving, and more. But poaching could bring an end to all of this. A group of tourists was recently accosted by a group of armed poachers.
Lie down. Lie flat. We had guests on the top deck of the boat. They started screaming, "There's people with guns, there's people with guns," they're aiming it at us. They started rushing down immediately. At that point, I realized we need to get out of there very soon. I untied the rope, and as the skipper started trying to get away and I moved in, The first 2 shots were fired.
With staff, you know, they get intimidated that they're not allowed to speak. They live among the poachers, and the poachers know exactly who the staff is. So none of the staff would speak up because their lives is in danger, and also their jobs would be endangered. So yeah, it's definitely terrifying everybody that's around the area.
Poachers in Jozini are after elephant tusks and the rare tiger fish. The ripple effect of poaching, though, will hurt the local economy.
This kind feels like it's escalating into a certain direction, and if we do not stop that escalation, this might be the end of tourism as we speak in this area.
We spoke to some locals and they seem to be aware of the goings on, but would not speak about the matter in public. Jozini.
Residents of Soshanguve in Tshwane took to the streets to say enough is enough. They barricaded roads with burning tires and rocks in protest against unplanned water cuts in the area. Residents say city officials have refused to address them, citing safety concerns. Our reporter, Pule Letwiti Jones, has more.
The water crisis in the city of Tshwane has reached boiling point. Now, residents have decided to take it upon themselves to embark on a chaotic protest, causing mayhem in the township called Soshanguve, north of Pretoria. Residents are complaining that they haven't had water for the past 4 weeks. They've used rocks and garbage to block the road to ensure that they send a very strong message to the city of Tshwane.
3 weeks now, this is the 4th week. Soshanguve Block L. I don't have water. Yesterday, the MMC was supposed to be here. So his or her response was he's afraid of his life. The protest might harm him or her. I don't know if it's a him or her. Yes, we've been waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting.
However, local businesses in this area have been affected by this protest.
These people who are doing all these things, they need to take these things to the right people, not to the township.
Who are the right people?
The right people are the guys who are running municipalities, MMs and everybody.
Tell me about your business now. You say it has been affected. What has happened?
No, obviously we can't operate like this. We have to let our employees go home. You know, we have to let the employees go home. We have to make sure that they are safe as well, because we don't know what's going to happen.
The city of Tshwane says it's aware of the protest and that it's doing everything it can to ensure that water supply is of course distributed to many households in these affected areas, like in Soshanguve. This comes after Rand Water had throttled its water supply to the metro. Pule Letwiti Jones in Tshwane.
The ANC believes declaring a national state of disaster over the energy crisis will help end power cuts by the end of this year. The governing party briefed the media at Luthuli House in Johannesburg on Tuesday on the outcomes of its National Executive Committee Lekgotla in Kempton Park. While ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula talks tough on ending blackouts, Eskom ramped up power cuts to stage 6. ENCA's senior reporter Sipamandla Koke reports.
A governing party facing real prospects and the threat of electoral decline, seemingly in panic mode ahead of next year's do-or-die general election. The ANC's political and governance wars are exacerbated by the fact that there is no end in sight to the crippling blackouts. But while the ANC's top brass at Luthuli House was busy outlining solutions to end blackouts, Eskom said, hang on a bit. The power utility announced power outages will be extended indefinitely to stage 5 and stage 6. ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula is adamant the proposal to declare a national state of disaster over the energy crisis will lead to the eradication of power cuts by the end of this year, a promise that's been made many times and unkept by his government.
State of disaster will help us to move with speed. The target of getting this done and dusted by end of the year can even move faster. If we've got all hands on deck, we address issues of procurement quite faster, and then we mobilize resources where they are needed for intervention, particularly when it comes to maintenance. And then you've got people with capacity
All the proposals and outcomes of the ANC Lekgotla will form deliberations at the Cabinet Lekgotla to be chaired by President Cyril Ramaphosa in Pretoria on Thursday. Siphamandla Goke, Johannesburg.
And that brings to an end this week's edition. From myself, Abigail Visagie, and the Week in One team, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great weekend. Take care.